with my boys, like, yo, Brad, that. I know who to speak to, how to, when to. Some people just have one mode. And that one mode may not be good for a woman right now who just wants to speak about her day.
You can get married quicker than getting a driver's license.
But people ain't thinking like that. It sounds unreasonable, period. But if we could, in any way, shape, or form, get some of that, so a little piece of that combination, we can start to chip away and make a little bit of change.
You're now kicking it with Brother Smalls, and I am here with speaker, business coach, life coach, relationship coach, communication coach, Mr. Ian Burke. Man, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here. What was that?
No, I'll just say, hey, folks.
That's right. There he is. Hey, I want to get right into it. I was really drawn to you, Ian, by the depth of your sharing on Instagram. And what I mean by that is you share with such a genuineness, very thoughtful, very insightful, very practical, words, insights, and things for people to kind of chew on. Where does that come from?
That comes from the fact that I used to get in a lot of trouble. And I could leave it there, but I'm not gonna leave it there, folks. I used to get in a lot of trouble. But one of the things that I can say, thank God, is that my parents never stopped. And if you're one of those kids who your parents are talking, you got that, but you got a whole bunch of, stop talking to me, I'm trying to go to my room and play video. You cursing them out in your mind or whatever, but you got that straight. Yeah, I was kind of that kid. But here's the thing. Later on, I kept having these series of aha moments, like things would happen, and I'd hear something my mom said, come back and meet me in that moment. It's like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So now what I've learned over the period of time is that sometimes you just got to say what you got to say. And it may not be well received right now in this moment, but it generally was for that person, but it could be for later. And my mom and dad are always the type of people who spoke a lot. And what I found myself doing, just regurgitating a lot of what I learned. It worked for me when it needed to work for me.
So did a lot of people just kind of reach out to you? Like, because again, you give a lot of great insight, did people just kind of reach out to you, because you gave good feedback?
Yeah, you know what? I don't even think that I give good feedback. I think what happens is I hear what someone is saying. And when I hear what they're saying, it's not a matter of believing it or not believing it. It's like, yeah, but did you think about this? Okay, got you. But did you think about that? And what I hear more than none is like, nah, I never really thought about it that way. So I just think that I have like an ability to see another angle on a given topic. And maybe that perceptiveness did come from the fact that it's been trial by fire. I did it my way, but then I heard another word from something that was said to me, whether through my parents or what have you, and it comes back and it's like, wow, okay. So now I can see how a thing works, and I can kind of like see around it a little bit, I guess.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna get right into it. Dr. A.R. Bernard said that in the beginning of an organization or entity lies the seeds of its demise or destruction. Do you believe that's true for relationships? And do you believe that you could kind of see, that a relationship is kind of like doomed for a breakup in the beginning?
Yes and no, because it's all relative, right? That same notion is applicable in a 10-year relationship. I think what we ought to do is think about what's trending in a negative direction. Like, it's kind of like watching the stock market, right? Early, early, early. Some people are like pull out, pull out, pull out, sell, 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 sell. If you're that kind of a person who trades that way, then that's you. If you're the kind of person who's like, oh, wow, we took a nasty dip, but I'm gonna hang around for a little bit. See, it's going up, things are getting better. Dang, it went down again. Then that's you. I don't think it's a matter of recognizing red flags. The problem is that we can't see the end of the line. And I've seen some bad relationships turn into fantastic ones years down. And there's some relationships that started out great. It was like, what? They broke up? Oh my gosh, right? So it's all relative. So if you are the type of person who's like, listen, I'm not even going to try to figure this out, then you're going to be gone. But in the beginning, yes, there's going to be there are going to be those signs. I'll tell you why. Because even if I'm putting on a persona, a facade to try to be this type of person, just to get you to like me, after a while, some human things are going to happen that are beyond the scope of my research for this new person that I created for you. It's inevitable, right? You cannot help it. But I always tell people this: don't just like people for who they are right now when they do the things that you like. And I'm not saying to push their buttons, but fall back. See how they act when they're mad. See how they act when they're put in a position to forgive. See how they act when they need to reciprocate love. Whatever, right? But now this person is telling you who they're going to be. And the other thing I always say is, if you look at the hands of a clock, it goes around, right? Just put your name on one of the times. Instead of 1, 2, or 3, just put your name there and put that person in the center, because at some point, the character of who they are is going to point in your direction. Don't be surprised if it's negative. They always kind of showed who they were and how they related to other people. It's going to come to you because you're the one sleeping next to them.
Wow. I mean, you're a relationship coach, and I wanted to ask you, what are the main issues that you see? I mean, I know you see and hear so many different issues that people have, so many different goals that people have. What are like some of the main issues or goals that you hear that people have? Issues
or goals?
Again, based on the volume, right? Based on what people present to you. So you hear a lot. So I'm just trying to kind of figure out, like, what are people dealing with?
I'll tell you this. I got three for you, right? It's culture, communication, and understanding. And I know culture threw everybody left field, right? But this is why I say culture. And I'm not talking about your ethnicity, so to speak. I'm not talking about race, so to speak. I'm talking about how you, the individual, was cultured. How were you raised inside a single parent home, 2-parent home, no parent home? How were you raised? Because it's a factor, right? A lot of people say to themselves, I will never do what my dad or mom did, or I'm going to do better than what my dad or mom did. But does that mean that your new way is going to be best? Not necessarily. Now, here's the idea behind that. Now you're coming together with someone else who has their different way of being cultured. Here's an analogy for you. We both grew up in 2 different churches. Now we're trying to find a church home. My old church ain't do it this way, but my old church ain't do it that way. But I don't know if I could go to this church. Or what you mean we can't go to church on Saturday? Now you're bickering about something that was rooted in tradition. Culture plays a big factor, because now we're not communicating properly around our differences in how we were raised and how we see life going forward as individuals, and the person that I want to be with. Because the person that I want to be with got to see life the way I see life, right? Mm. We want to be on the same page, heading in the same direction. I know a dude who regrets losing a woman that he gave up because her ideas of raising children, what church you're going to attend, was different from his. Everything else was perfect, but he didn't like that one part. Now he looks back like, dang, I should have kept it. Or I should have stayed with her. I shouldn't have broken up with her for that silly reason. But at that point, it was a big issue to him, big enough that it was a deal breaker, right? So how someone was raised and how they see themselves moving forward behind how they were raised in culture is a big issue. And now we align that with communication. How did that person learn how to communicate? And now, who are they today as a communicator, that individual? Not how they relate to the person they're with, not how they relate to the rest of the world, but how do they view communication on a whole period? I know that I'm aware of how I communicate with every individual, my wife included. Are we that, did we do that shadow work? Did we do that introspection? Are we that aware of how we speak to people? Do we know the differences? For even myself, right? I try not to speak to my wife like this, animated and loud and things of that nature, because it can be misconstrued. My intentions, I could be talking about bread. Well, maybe I got excited about bread and I'm talking to her like this. It's like, whoa, baby, whoa, like take it down. But I wouldn't do that because my wife doesn't necessarily like anything that's too loud. Whereas I'm with my boys, like, yo, Brad, that. I know who to speak to, how to, when to. Some people just have one mode. And that one mode may not be good for a woman right now who just wants to speak about her day or something that she felt was wrong between both of you, but you just got this one mode. This is how I talk to everybody, though. You know what I'm saying? This is how I talk to everybody. You can't talk to everybody that way because she doesn't want to be treated like everybody, just like you don't want her to treat you like everybody. So now the thing that's missing, which is the third component, is understanding. Well, I'll understand that. You've been with me this long. You need to understand me. Well, the last time I checked, when you were trying to take a test to pass a class for something you didn't understand, you had to try to understand it so you can learn it. Aren't you supposed to be learning the person you're with? So why do they need to understand you? The last time I checked, math, they never cared what I thought.
Oh man, this is rich. This is rich. I mean, you know, I had a thought. You can get married quicker than getting a driver's license.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and what you're talking about is like requires coaching, requires like you know, an example. I mean, man, this is, I mean, it's a lot.
Well, before you ask me your next question, let me just say this to that thought. When you get the urge, we're all adults in here. When we get the urge, how soon do you want that satisfied? Now let's make it a little rhetorical for all the folks who can't answer out loud. How soon do you want that? And boom, when it goes away, and then it come back twofold, like, dang, so I was just the other day and still today, married or not, because even if you're passing ship at night or your wife tired, your husband tired, whatever, you can't get some tonight or tomorrow, or maybe a couple of days. That build up. Now imagine being single and wanting to do it the right way, but you have those urges, right? Cool. Now that's just one urge. Let's not make it physical. It could just be loneliness. I just want to be in the company of someone. And you have that urge, but you don't want to pick the wrong one. You don't want a crazy person around you, whatever, right? So we get these human things, but how many people are going to sit down and go, let me try to figure out how I communicate to the rest of the world versus I'm going to communicate to the person I'm with. Let me figure out how I am as far as understanding is concerned. Let me figure out my culture and where I'm coming from and how that would pair well with someone else's culture. Oh, you know what? Let me see your medical records before we get down, even though I'm feeling kind of right now. Oh, you know, well, the doctor's office don't open until Monday. I can't get it printed out. Well, we're gonna wait till Monday. But people ain't thinking like that. It sounds unreasonable, period. But if we could, in any way, shape, or form, get some of that, so a little piece of that combination, we can start to chip away and make a little bit of change.
No, I've heard you say, hold on, wait a little while if you want to kind of get, I don't know if the right word is respect of the other person, or to be considered at a certain level. You might want to kind of hold back, even though you have those urges. What do you say to that person? Hey, that has that, you know, like all of us, those particular needs, but you know, you're cautioning, hey.
Let me tell you what they might say to me first.
Okay.
I might die tomorrow. And what I would say to them is, you can't see the future. I got a brother who I met on the beach a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, so excited. He's in his 60s. So we were at this this birthday party for my sister-in-law's friend. It was 60th birthday party. We went to the Caribbean for that. I were on the beach, and it's a big group, about 21 people, my wife and myself included. And he and I were just off to the side talking. He was just like staring at his wife, but we were talking about business and investments and things. I'm like, what you gonna do now with your retirement? That kind of stuff. And he's like, man, I'm gonna spend the rest of my retirement making that woman happy. And I'm like, I thought you've been doing that this 60-something years. And he was like, nah, brother, to be honest with you, like at the beginning, I was a young man doing my young thing, you know what I'm saying? But she took me back enough times for me to be like, come on, man, there's too many times now. This good woman keep taking you back. So she took him back. They went through life together. And he said one day she just looked at him a couple of times. It was like, something's wrong. She's like, he's like, what do you mean something's wrong? He's like, I work out, I'm in the gym, do my thing, da da da. She's like, something's wrong. We're going to the doctor. Just so happens that at an eye shot, she saw something off with him. He had stage 1 prostate cancer. They caught it early. They fixed it. He was like, what if she had left me? For all the trouble that I gave her all this time, bro, and she still erased that from her mind to love me enough to pay so much attention to me that she would catch something that you can't even physically see. I was like, yo. Problem is, we play around now, but you can't see the future.
So I mean, again, that sounds like, hey, they started to get it right or get it better, right? But what about that relationship that's kind of going down? Is I guess the term I've heard is I wanted to ask you, why do people stay in toxic relationships or relationships that are not really working, not really satisfying, not really addressing each other's needs?
There's a lot of reasons for that. One of those could be culture, could be, and this is one of the reasons why I always tell people to be mindful of what you do in front of your children, even the way you live and the things you accept, because they're watching. Some people could have come from a household where that's a social norm: bickering, fighting, toxicity, loudness, screaming. I know somebody who said, we went to their house and like, oh, your house is mad loud. I was like, loud? That's how we always talk. What do you mean? This type of communication is a social norm. Some people actually get a good feeling out of negative attention. The fact that you're going back and forth with me means that you have that for me. So you're going back and forth. But people still ought to think about their own selves in a way. And yes, there's some times where it requires you to be selfish, because what that does, it deteriorates an individual. It breaks you down, but still people get adept at adapting to what's comfortable and to fear. Here's how we adapt to fear. I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm eating, tomorrow's another day. The world isn't ending. I'm healthy in my body. I still got my friends and things like that, right? But what would life look like if I changed all of that? Because if I left this situation, all that's going to change. And I'm familiar with this level of pain. People who work out, after a while, that burn, you still feel it, but it's kind of like nothing. But if I go up to 50 from 40, the fear of that's going to hurt even more. So it's like, you know what? I'm comfortable with this level of pain. So I'm going to stay right here because I know how to navigate it. I know when we're going to argue. I know how we're going to break up. I know, not break up, how we're going to wake up. I know how we're going to sweep it under the rug. I know how we're going to move forward. You hungry? You want it? But still, we never spoke about that thing. But what we do is, you know what? I don't like fighting with you. I'm going this way. I'm going that way. Somewhere along the line, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days later, we get back together. We just keep perpetuating that cycle. And then we go, it's what we do. That's just us. Those are affirmations. You're affirming that relationship being okay. That's how we are, yo. And then other people go, oh, that's just how they are. People are not surprised that you broke up, but they're not surprised that you're still together, because that's just how they are. And then those are the ones that say, oh yeah, we have this on and off type relationship. How long y'all been doing that? Like 4, 5 years, 6 years, couple kids. You get comfortable because we can train our minds to be anywhere. How people live in Antarctica, how? I'm in 46 degrees and I'm not trying to go outside. But you got people in Antarctica drinking coffee, talking about, oh, it's a great day outside. How? Here's the great day, right? We could train ourselves to be anywhere in any environment. The idea is to become uncomfortable the moment you start feeling complacent.
Wow. Wow. Man. So is part of what you do helping people to like detect what's healthy? Or is what healthy is that relative, or what, you know?
Right. So I wanted to finish your sentence with for them.
Okay, for them. Got it.
Yeah. So even in couples coaching or singles coaching, I treat everyone like an individual. There is no truth, right? There's only your truth. And your truth is not a lie unless you're lying about your truth. Because these things right here, they're constantly recording your world. I would take two people. This is one of the exercises I do with couples, right? I will take two people, put them in the same room, have them stand next to each other, say, tell me the first thing you see. And they automatically name something different. TV, the watch, why did you see something? Why did you see something different? Standing in the same room right next to each other, facing in the same direction. Perspective. But why can't you appreciate that the first thing I saw was the first thing I saw? It's not wrong. It's just what I saw. Now we have an argument about the chronological order of the things in the room. Doesn't make sense. Not to mention the fact that chances are we're going to be at different height levels. There's a whole marketing campaign around things at height level. If you go into any store, anywhere, whatever you see here at the height level, chances are it's going to be the top product, right? Because they want it right in your face. So chances are, whatever level you're at, the thing that you see on your front shelf is what you're going to name first. And sometimes in relationships, we see things differently because emotionally we're at different height levels.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. So, I mean, so again, you speak to people as individuals. When they come in as couples, they're individuals. And so, you know, what you provide to them is kind of like based on their particular situation. It's not it's definitely not cookie cutter.
No, not at all. Even in training in the gym, it's not cookie cutter. But I feel like a lot of what I do for a lot of people is not so much give them advice or just tell them what they don't know. What I do is I think a lot of folks, I help to bring things to their recollection. You know what I hear some people say? Like, oh man, I know this. I know. You just needed to be reminded. One of the things that we're not talking about today, especially for, you know, our generation, you know, the 80s, 90s babies, or whatever, we're the ones that are in the middle. We had an entire lifetime of the old way, and we helped to usher in this new social media age. We were the test dummies for those, right? They brought those in with us. But my thing is that now when we speak to people, when I speak to people, I'm hearing a lot of what they used to do, how they used to think, the things that I learned once upon. Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that word in so long. My mom used to say that. You know, my grandma told me that once upon a time. I'm hearing a whole bunch of recollection because they're like, wow, because what the world is saying today is so different from what I used to know. But what you used to know now, when you hear those words, the tears come down because that's what's bringing healing. Some people just need to be reminded of who they are because they're being quoted with who you're supposed to be by the way the world is today.
Wow. Wow. You have, you know, someone who, what would you tell someone who has been through um, some very difficult relationships, very traumatic relationships, and they're at the point of just throwing up their hands. They're, what would you say to that person?
So let me tell you this before I answer that. My wife says that I try to be nice all the time, and sometimes that's not good because it doesn't really help the person. Because I don't necessarily want to hurt people's feelings, so I try to think about my words too much. And I appreciated that because when she gave me that bit of advice, and I told some people some things raw, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I needed that." And I was like, "Oh, I thought I was fitting to hurt your feelings," because it's like, no, I needed it delivered that way. So for that question, the reason why I prefaced answering it with what I just, what my wife's thought, is because I would tell that person immediately that you're the common denominator, first and foremost. A series is written by one author, right? Usually, that person's telling a story. So you've been telling a story of bad decisions. Let's face the fact, right? But giving up is only admitting defeat to making a series of bad decisions. What we want to do is become aware of the fact that I have been perpetually making a series of bad decisions. And now to pivot and redirect my thinking by studying the me that I was when I made those decisions, the gratifications that I received from making those decisions, the things that I lost from making those decisions, right? It's kind of like trading still. You kind of do some homework on the decisions that you made in efforts not to make those same ones. And now give yourself grace and time, and give God grace and time, because now you're at this roadblock. You're at this point where he can now reach you. You're no longer distracted. So now he can say, all right, can we get back to the road that you initially were supposed to have taken 20 years ago before you started taking your own road because someone told you if you did it this way, it'll work? And then you became complacent and afraid, and you just stayed in that spot. Now that you finally loosed yourself from the third, fourth, fifth one, and you have nowhere to go, where do people normally go? Oh God, when their face is on the floor, or oh God, right? Yeah, oh yeah. God, but God kind of been there the whole time, like, this was supposed to be your road, and on that road, it was your purpose, was your wife and kids that had intended, that career that you had spoken to me about when you was 9, but the decisions didn't look like the ones that you wanted because it wasn't lit at the time. That was the one that spoke to your conscience and said, oh, don't do that. It ain't gonna be all that, did it? Your conscience is like, don't do it. Wow. But you were like, yo, this fit to be lit, so conscience, hold the back seat. Let me just do this.
Gotcha. Man, this is some good stuff. You guys get this all the time? Do you guys get this all the time? This is some good stuff. My goodness. I was telling you before, I kind of have a pet peeve.
Yeah.
And one of a pet peeve is that when you everyone is like a relationship guru. Everyone is like, and what I see is sometimes it's they're kind of sharing information based off of their failures. Now, we can all learn from failures, but it's not really, to me, it's not really genuine if you don't acknowledge them. Hey, I did something wrong, and and now I would do something different. What I mean, there's a lot of noise out there. Do you have any thoughts regarding all the different people that are giving advice?
I don't have thoughts about the people giving advice. I have thoughts about the people hitting that follow button. I have thoughts about the people who are listening. Everyone has an opinion, and all most of us are doing is grabbing the phone, and when we have an opinion, and we say it and we post it. The difference is that the people who can relate are going to like, follow, and comment. Here's the thing. Not because you like watching horror movies means that you should watch that scary movie. It might just jump into your system. You can't sleep for 3 days, right? So we got to be careful of the information that we're allowing to come inside ourselves. Now, how do we do that? With discernment. You really got to ask yourself, do I want this? Do I want to hear this? Do I want to fill myself with this? Now, how do you even come to that? Well, what does this information say to my spirit and not my ears? What is it saying to the inner, as a man thinketh in his heart? What is it saying to my heart and spirit? Now, for the people who are listening, is the person telling you their failures based off anger, resentment, their hate toward their disdain towards the topic, whatever the negative side of what they received? Is that what they're telling you? Oh, don't get married because I was married and now I'm divorced and dudes ain't this and wives ain't that. Is that what you're hearing? Or is everyone having their 8 Mile moment? Like we spoke about earlier, is everyone saying the truths about themselves, whether it was shameful or embarrassing? But now at the tail end of it, they can say, and this is how I got through it. So if you don't want that to happen to you, it's not for everybody. But if you don't want this to happen to you, then don't step in that area, because when I stepped there, it happened to me. It has to be a level of vulnerability and transparency that's coming with the message, right? And an opinion is one thing. And even sometimes when I give when I speak, I'm like, this is just my opinion. If you only hear me preface it with that, chances are it was my experience. I'm not going to say in every video, this is my experience, but I can't talk to you about what it is to be married at 50. I speak to married men who are married at 50, and they tell me what it's like. I'll experience it when we get there. One of my mentors says that going there can't tell been there how to get there, but been there can definitely teach going there how to get there. I can only say what I've experienced on this planet, and what do I gain from lying about what I experienced on this planet? Now, what I can gain about telling the truth is someone not feeling the hurt that I felt at that point in my life. And that's the whole reason. If that's not your reason, then everything else may come off as disingenuous.
Well, I would say that's why I was drawn to you, because when I listened to you on IG, I think the last time you said something about the truth hurts, and why is it hurt? Why is it hurt? Because but it was honest. It was something that I don't necessarily hear all the time. People saying, "Hey, my wife told me something that was truthful. It was painful, but I took it." You know what I mean? And you don't necessarily hear that all the time.
Right. Well,
you just don't hear that. You don't hear it.
Well, again, people got to be ashamed. Stop being afraid of shame. Stop being afraid of persecution. Stop being afraid of not pleasing the masses. It's almost like we've been driven now to become like each other. Follow me, follow you, follow. So where's the individuality? How do you still remain you when everybody is doing the same thing? It's kind of like, you can find this in any household. I don't even have to guess this. I could predict this, that there's some people who are home and they see a TikTok challenge and they all stand around like, oh, you ain't doing it right. Well, who dictates who's right? Oh, the first person who posted the video. Well, they're doing it their way. Does that make it right? My way is just my way, but it's wrong because it doesn't look exactly like that. Well, the rest of TikTok is doing it exactly like that, exactly because they're following that person and they're not being themselves. I can do a version of that and it'll be mine. Now it's my dance. It looks somewhat like that, but it's not exactly that dance, but it's still that dance because everybody has their version. But if you don't get it just the way that person does it, you're not doing it right. Are you kidding me? Where's our individuality? Where did that go? Because we are afraid of persecution. We don't want other people to say, oh, you're wrong, you're not doing it right. We're scared to hear what other people's gonna say about us.
Oh gosh. All right, I got a couple more questions for you, man. you what do you tell people who are looking to get into a relationship? Okay, they're looking to kind of do some of the homework, so to speak, or do some of the work. What do you tell those folks?
Three things. First things first, work on your relationship with God. Right under that, I'm gonna tell you what God will tell you, work on yourself, right? And what that simply means is Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things should be added. So the next thing that you're working on is purpose. So God yourself purpose. People go looking for a relationship and then try to figure out purpose. Well, think about it like this, right? If your purpose is to play basketball and you ran out and grabbed the first person that you thought was sexy, attractive, whatever attracted you, you grab that person, right? And they're supposed to be on your team, but they're adept at pool. How many basketball games you winning?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't know that you're supposed to play basketball. How about you figure out what game you're supposed to play first? When you figure out the game that you're supposed to play, now you know the type of teammate you need. You know exactly who to look for. So when you snatch up a teammate, they can help you play that game. Called life.
Oh man, it reminds me. How can two walk together unless they agree? And so that's good. So how do you keep it? How long have you been married?
11 years.
11 years. How do you keep growth and development and freshness in your marriage?
Well, one, I do have a very deep affection for my wife, period. So being around her is easy because it's always been that from day one. That's my bestie. You know what I'm saying? So, everybody want to go check their bestie. I don't have to check mine. I sleep next to her. So we, and we work together. We always together, right? So cool. But it's not just to say that I got my girl with me, so I'm good. Because I still got to chase her, right? But I'm not chasing her because she's running from me. I'm chasing her because she's always growing. She's always doing something, becoming someone new. She finds new interests, conquers it, finds something to learn something new. So this person is always evolving in front of me. She works out, so physically she looks different. There's so many different things that she's always doing to advance her mind, her spirit, and her physical body that, I don't have a complacent woman that I know. I have somebody that I'm getting to know every day. So it's always exciting, kind of like when I was getting to know her when I met her. She was always this person who was just like, growing, soaking up information, becoming something new, grabbing new ideas, wanting to build something, always wanting to do something. And for me, that's kind of like, that's attractive, bro. I don't have a woman that's looking at me like, so what's life? And how do we do it? Take the lead. You know what I mean? I got somebody that's like, yo, bro, I need a leader because I got some things I need to do. And I'm like, good, because I got some things I need to do for me. So let's get it together. And the thing that we did was we paired our skill sets. It's almost like, people always say that opposites attract, but it's not so much that opposites attract. It's the things that you oppose that are good for you, that you see in someone else, but you don't often recognize it right away that you're drawn to. Maybe it could be also in culture. It could be character traits from someone that you respect, like a mom or a dad. You oppose it, but you know that there's some element of it that's good for you. So you're kind of drawn to it because it reminds you of something, right? Cool, that's good for the relationship, but now what are you good at? What's your skill set? And someone who's learning and growing is a great skill set and asset to have in your arsenal, even though you're not the one that have it. You know what I mean?
Wow. What's next for Ian? What's next for you?
So one of the things that we're doing here at BBC firm, Burke Business Consulting Firm, just on this end of life coaching, is we are putting together couples and men's retreats. That's coming up next. We're actually working on locations. On my website, I'm going to have a form for folks to fill out, just so that I can send you information as it becomes available. I do think is paramount because I do get so much communication throughout the course of the day the weeks, wherever I am, even on vacation, it's like people just sit me down. Like I don't even have to wear a shirt, nothing. Just sit down. Hey, I want to talk to you about something. I'm like, why do you pick me up at the line at the buffet in the morning, sir? And like, I don't know. Somebody told me to talk to you, and now I got a new friend, and they told me everything about themselves. So 60 seconds on IG or Facebook isn't cutting it, and I do one-on-one sessions, but how do we get people together to captivate and cultivate a thinking is to get a bunch of people in one place. So, we are moving on to doing some couples and men's retreats, and I do think that they're going to be of value. They were to me when I went to men's retreats, and my wife loved the fact that I went to these men's retreats because they always gave us something to come back home with. And when we came back home with this stuff, like for example, one year I came back home with living life one good decision at a time. I can't even tell you what year that is, but it's still a motto in my house. My 19-year-old said it to me the other night, right? So it's just good to go for a man. It's good for a man to be in a place of learning. It's also good for a man that's in a place of learning to say to his significant other, hey, let's go to this place of learning together. He should always be taking her somewhere where he's being elevated and enlightened and she is as well. I just think being in any learning arm, period, is a credit for any relationship. It also helps to fight stagnation and complacency. And also on the Burke Business Firm Consulting, and where my wife is the CEO of this part of our company, we are also developing business open forums like these because we're getting a lot of requests for those. We're also going to be putting together our next network and grow event. We're putting that together now for next year. It's going to be a July 15th. Location is pending and information to be determined. And we got some other things that we're working on to be released shortly. But I tell you this: everything that BBC Firm does is for the advancement of other people. And one of the things that I'm going to say openly is that we are kingdom ambassadors, and our job is to feed people. And the thing that we do is we don't look externally for things to feed people with. We feed people with what's in us. So Rose and I said, what do we have to offer? And one of the things that we do as friends, period, is think tank. Like for fun, we just think about problems and we ponder problems, but think about a solution. We don't think about problems. We ponder problems, but we think about solutions. So we've come up with some solutions to help people to leverage what they already have. We also come up with some solutions to help people make passive income. So when we want folks to just join our community, become a part of what we're building here, because what we're building here isn't for the glory of BBC Firm, isn't for the glory of E&W Burke, it's actually for the glory of God's kingdom. But God's kingdom has some things for people, and he has designed some things through us. We'd love for folks to just be a part of this community, to participate and take advantage of those things that we have prepared. And it's going to be dope because it's all for you to have a better experience, especially financially, this thing called life.
Man, this has been rich, man. I thank you so much for allowing me. Thank you
My pleasure.
also